The shuttle hummed softly as it descended through Arendor's thin atmosphere. Outside the viewports, a world unlike any Eris had ever seen spread beneath him. Emerald forests glowed faintly under the twin suns. Rivers reflected strange colors he couldn't name, and massive, floating structures hovered above the ground like silent guardians. Eris pressed his hand to the glass, heart beating faster. He had spent years studying alien colonies from afar, but nothing compared to being here in person. Arendor was known across human colonies for its advanced technology and its enigmatic inhabitants. The native species, called the Sirens, had intelligence that rivaled humans in some ways and exceeded it in others. Eris had heard stories of their precision, their logic, and their ability to control environments in ways humans could barely imagine. Still, the purpose of his visit was clear: to learn from them, to understand how humans and aliens could work together to achieve things neither could do alone. When the shuttle finally touched down, the hatch opened with a quiet hiss. Eris stepped onto the landing platform, the smell of ozone and something floral mixing in the air. The platform stretched out toward a massive biodome in the distance. Its surface shimmered with color, changing as light hit it. Inside, Eris could see moving shapes, plants, creatures, and machines interacting in perfect harmony. "Welcome to Arendor," a voice said. Eris turned sharply. A figure stood at the edge of the platform. A siren's, tall and slender, with skin that reflected the light like a soft metal. Her eyes were luminous, shifting colors as she studied him. "I am Lyra," she said, her tone calm but curious. "You are the human I have been expecting." "I am Eris," he replied, offering a small bow. "Thank you for welcoming me." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "Humans say many things. Actions are what matter," Eris smiled. He had read about the Siren's reputation for precision and distrust of strangers, but he had learned long ago that patience and empathy often spoke louder than words. She gestured for him to follow. As they walked toward the biodome, Eris noticed the care in every movement. The plants seemed alive in ways beyond simple biology. Leaves shifted direction, streams of light moved through the air, and the machines didn't just operate. They seemed to interact with the environment, adjusting and responding. It was breathtaking. "This is the central biolab," Lyra said. "It houses the most important ecosystems of our planet. Every organism here is connected, every action affects the whole." Eris nodded, captivated. "It's incredible. Humans have studied closed ecosystems, but nothing like this." Lyra didn't answer immediately. Instead, she led him to a smaller chamber within the dome. Here, the plants were arranged in intricate patterns and several devices hummed quietly, measuring and regulating every aspect of life. One device caught Eris's attention. A delicate tree-like structure with wires intertwined in its branches, glowing faintly. "That is the cognition tree," Lyra said, noticing his gaze. "It links intelligence to the environment. It responds to thought and emotion." Eris stepped closer. "It reacts to feeling." "Yes," Lyra replied, her voice steady. "It is precise, but it can be influenced. That is why it is crucial to approach it carefully. The tree is part of my work, my responsibility." Eris extended a hand, hesitating only briefly before touching one of the glowing branches. Warmth spread through his fingers and the lights pulsed gently. He felt a wave of connection, not just to the machine but to the environment itself. It was subtle yet profound. Lyra watched him closely. "You are not clumsy," she said. "Many humans cannot handle this. Their minds are too erratic." Eris smiled. "I suppose I have had practice controlling my thoughts." Lyra's expression softened slightly. It was the first crack in the wall of composure she had maintained since he arrived. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but some, like Eris, could navigate complexity with care and respect. That was rare, and she found herself intrigued. Before they could continue, an alarm sounded faintly in the background. A small section of the lab's plant network had begun to falter. The leaves wilted slightly, and the sensors indicated a drop in energy flow. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "This section has been unstable since last cycle. I will need to repair it. You may observe if you wish." Eris nodded. "Of course. I would like to help if possible." Lyra paused, considering. Finally, she gestured to him. "Very well. But follow my instructions exactly. Do not attempt improvisation without permission." They approached the troubled section. Eris studied the devices carefully. He could see where the energy nodes had misaligned and where the minor malfunctions were occurring. Lyra handed him a small tool, delicate and precise. Adjust the alignment here, she instructed. Slowly. The nodes are sensitive. Eris followed her directions, hands steady. He made minor adjustments, realigning the nodes while Lyra watched. The machine responded immediately. The glow returned to the branches, leaves lifted, and energy flowed smoothly once again. It is stable, Lyra said, her tone neutral but tinged with approval. You did not disrupt the system. Eris smiled, stepping back. I only tried to be careful. Lyra nodded, but she felt something stir within her. Humans were different. Their touch on her world, though cautious, carried creativity and intuition that machines alone could never replicate. She had believed her systems could only be managed by logic and precision. Yet here was a human, influencing the environment in subtle ways, restoring balance with a sense of understanding that went beyond rules. As the day passed, Eris explored more of the dome under Lyra's guidance. They observed alien flora that changed color based on mood, creatures that responded to sound, and systems that required both logic and intuition to maintain. Eris asked questions, many questions, but always with genuine curiosity and respect. Lyra found herself answering more freely than she had with any visitor before. By the time the twin suns set, bathing the dome in a kaleidoscope of colors, Eris and Lyra reached a quieter chamber, where the light reflected in soft patterns across the walls. For a moment, there was silence. Eris looked around, marveling at the environment. This place, he said, it's like nothing I've ever known. It's alive in every sense of the word. Lyra watched him, her usual composure faltering slightly. It is not just alive, she said quietly. It is delicate. Every choice, every action affects more than you realize. I understand, Eris said, and I will do my best to respect it. For the first time, Lyra felt a strange sense of trust. She had spent countless cycles protecting her world from harm, ensuring that nothing destabilized the balance. And yet, here was a human who, instead of threatening it, enhanced it through care, thoughtfulness, and patience. Night fell over the dome, and the glow of the plants became softer, more intimate. Lyra led Eris to a viewing platform above the central chamber, where they could see the entire ecosystem illuminated. You have done well today, she said. Few humans could manage as you have. Eris turned to her. I only hope to learn, and perhaps in time I can contribute something meaningful. Lyra's gaze lingered on him. There was something unquantifiable about humans, something unpredictable yet harmonious when guided with thought and care. She had kept her distance for so long, believing control was essential, but Eris had stepped in, and without force he had begun to change her perception. Tomorrow, Lyra said slowly, you may assist with a more complex task. It will require coordination, patience, and creativity. Eris nodded eagerly. I look forward to it. As he left the dome to rest, he looked back at the glowing structure, feeling a sense of wonder and responsibility. Arendor was more than a planet. It was a living, breathing organism, and he was part of it now. Lyra remained on the platform a little longer, watching him disappear into the human quarters. Her mind replayed every action he had taken today. There was an energy to him, a perspective she could not quantify. It made her question her reliance on logic alone. Could humans, with their unpredictability and emotion, truly enhance what she had built? She was not sure, but she felt something new, a willingness to find out. The twin suns dipped below the horizon, leaving the dome bathed in soft twilight. Outside, Arendor continued to breathe, its systems humming in perfect harmony. Inside, a small seed of trust had been planted between human and sirens. It was fragile, yes, but it held promise. Tomorrow would be the real test, and Lyra found herself for the first time in many cycles, curious to see what would happen when she let a human truly step into her world. The morning sun rose over Arendor, casting soft gold and violet light across the biolab. Eris awoke early, anticipation fluttering in his chest. Today, Lyra had promised, would be a more complex task. He dressed quickly and made his way to the lab, feeling the quiet hum of the planet's life through the corridors. Every step reminded him that this place was alive in ways far beyond human imagination. Lyra was already waiting at the entrance, her luminous eyes reflecting the morning light. She didn't greet him with words this time. Instead, she gestured for him to follow. Eris noticed that her movements were precise, but there was something different, Less distance, more openness, as if she were curious rather than wary. "This task requires collaboration," she said finally, her voice calm but firm. "You will not act alone. You must observe, respond, and adjust as necessary." "Can you do this?" "I can," Eris replied. "I'm ready." Lyra led him to a section of the biolab that he hadn't seen before. The chamber was vast, with tall glass walls allowing sunlight to pour in. Inside, the plants and machines were arranged in a complex network of intertwining life. Streams of colored light flowed along suspended conduits, connecting devices that seemed almost alive. "This is the harmonic grid," Lyra explained. "It regulates the energy balance of the entire ecosystem. Any misalignment can affect thousands of organisms." Eris walked slowly through the chamber, careful not to touch anything. He marveled at the way the lights pulsed in rhythm with the life forms around them. It was as if the entire room had a heartbeat, subtle but unmistakable. Lyra handed him a small device, a slender tool designed for precise adjustments. "Observe first. Do not act without understanding the flow of energy. Then when the opportunity arises, intervene carefully." Eris nodded. He began moving along the conduits, studying the patterns, watching the light shift and the leaves respond. Hours passed as he learned to anticipate how changes in one section influenced another. It was delicate work, requiring attention, patience, and intuition. Lyra watched him silently, noting the way his eyes followed the flows, the way his hands hovered before making adjustments. Humans often acted with impulsive energy, she thought, but Eris was different. He had a rhythm that aligned with the environment rather than disrupting it. Finally, a section of the grid began to fluctuate. A minor irregularity, but enough to affect nearby plants. Eris moved carefully, following the pulses of energy with his device. He adjusted the alignment of a node and the light flowed back into harmony. "Well done," Lyra said, her voice softening slightly. "You understood it before acting." "That is rare," Eris smiled. "I learned by watching. It's amazing how everything is connected." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, connection is the foundation of our systems. And yet," her gaze lingered on him, "humans perceive connection differently. You respond not just with logic but with feeling." Eris tilted his head. "Feeling?" Lyra's eyes reflected the light from the grid. "Your mind is flexible. Your thoughts, your emotions influence your actions in ways machines cannot replicate. It is both unpredictable and effective." Eris felt a small thrill of pride. "I suppose that's part of being human. We rely on intuition as much as reason." Lyra remained silent for a moment, watching him. She had spent cycles believing that order, control, and precision were the only paths to stability, yet here was a human whose touch brought harmony rather than disruption. It made her reconsider her assumptions. The work continued through the day. Eris adjusted nodes, redirected flows of energy, and observed reactions in the plants and machines. Lyra provided guidance when necessary, but allowed him space to explore solutions on his own. Gradually, the tension that usually accompanied her teaching softened. She began to share more about the systems themselves, the algorithms, the cycles, and the history behind the harmonic grid. At one point, a small vine-like plant reacted unpredictably, curling around a conduit and dimming the light flow. Eris studied it carefully, noticing the subtle shifts in color and movement. With a few precise adjustments, he guided the plant back into alignment. Lyra observed, fascinated. "You perceive patterns that I cannot see immediately," she said. "Humans are sensitive to fluctuations in ways that logic alone does not explain." Eris chuckled softly. "I think we just notice things differently. Some patterns are clearer to one mind than another." Lyra found herself smiling, a rare expression for a siren's whose emotions were usually controlled. She did not comment on it. Instead, she watched Eris work, feeling a mixture of admiration and something else, something unfamiliar. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but their unpredictability brought insight and creativity, not destruction. By mid-afternoon, they had completed a significant portion of the grid's adjustments. The chamber glowed softly, the lights flowing in perfect harmony, and the plants thrived in response. Eris leaned against a railing, breathing lightly, feeling the satisfaction of having contributed meaningfully to this alien ecosystem. Lyra approached him, her steps quiet. "You have adapted quickly," she said. "Few visitors could have managed this without causing imbalance." Eris smiled. I learned from you. Your guidance made all the difference. She nodded, but her mind lingered on the connection he had made with the grid. Humans, she realized, did not simply act. They interacted, they influenced, they resonated with life in ways that could not be fully predicted. And sometimes that resonance was beautiful. As the sun lowered in the sky, Lyra led Eris to a quieter section of the lab, where the plants were smaller, more delicate, and the light softer. Here, she showed him a device that measured subtle emotional influences on the environment. This device records patterns of thought and feeling, she explained. It is primarily used for research, to understand how intelligence interacts with life systems. You may observe it. Eris studied the device with curiosity. So it detects intention? Yes, Lyra replied. And responses. It is complex, but it allows us to see the subtle ways beings affect the ecosystem. He placed a hand gently on the surface, feeling a faint vibration as the device registered his presence. A warmth spread through him, not from the machine itself, but from the sense that he was connected to something greater. Lyra watched closely. You are attuned, she said softly. Most humans are not. They are too focused on results, on goals. You perceive the balance itself. Eris looked at her, realizing she was acknowledging a quality unique to his species, not just adaptability, but empathy, patience, and awareness. He nodded quietly, not needing to boast. Hours passed as they experimented with the device together, observing how slight shifts in thought or emotion could influence the environment. At times, the effects were subtle, a leaf tilting, a light pulse quickening. At other times, they were dramatic, creating waves of color and motion that danced across the chamber. Lyra found herself laughing softly when a small reaction unexpectedly filled the room with soft, glowing orbs. It was a sound she had not made in many cycles, and it surprised her. Humans, she realized, could make even her systems respond in ways that were joyful rather than controlled. You influence more than I imagined, she said, her voice tinged with awe. I think you've influenced me too, Eris replied. I've never seen technology respond to emotion like this. It's incredible. The day drew to a close and the lab settled into a gentle hum of life. Lyra and Eris stood side by side on the viewing platform, watching the colors flow and the plants shift in rhythm with the systems they had tended together. You have done well today, Lyra said. I was cautious, skeptical, but you have shown harmony is possible between human and sirens. I did not expect this. Eris turned to her, feeling a warm sense of accomplishment. I hope this is just the beginning. There is so much we can learn from each other. Lyra nodded, but there was a quiet thought in her mind, one she had not voiced. Humans were unpredictable. They were emotional, intuitive, and at times chaotic. Yet they had a power she could not quantify, the ability to inspire, to bring balance and creativity to systems that even the most logical mind might fail to perfect. For the first time, she wondered what would happen if she let him truly step further into her world, beyond observation, beyond guidance. Could humans influence not just the systems, but the very perspective of a siren's? As Eris left the lab to rest, Lyra lingered, watching the interplay of light, life, and energy. She felt a new sense of curiosity and anticipation. The day had shown her that humans were more than visitors. They were catalysts. Tomorrow, she thought, would be the real test. She would allow him deeper access, into spaces she had guarded carefully for cycles, and she felt for the first time the strange thrill of uncertainty, the loss of absolute control. Yet it was not fear that stirred within her, but something far more complex, wonder. The twin suns set beyond the horizon, casting long, shimmering shadows across the lab. Outside, the world of Arendor continued to thrive, unaware of the subtle changes taking place inside the mind of one siren's. Inside, a bond was forming, one built on trust, curiosity, and the gentle influence of a human who had begun to show that intelligence alone was not enough. Understanding, empathy, and creativity mattered as much. And with that realization, Lyra felt the first stirrings of something she had not experienced in many cycles: openness. The next morning, Eris arrived at the lab earlier than usual. The twin suns had just begun to rise, casting warm light over the biodome and painting the floating structures in gold and violet. Eris could feel a quiet excitement in the air, the kind that comes when the day promises discovery and new understanding. Lyra was waiting for him at the entrance, her posture calm, but her luminous eyes seemed to hold a different light today. She had decided to give him access to one of the most private sections of the lab, the central core. This chamber controlled the entire network of ecosystems in the biodome, and very few were ever allowed inside. "You may enter the core today," Lyra said. "It will test your perception, your patience, and your intuition. Are you ready?" Eris nodded, heart steady but alert. "I am." "Thank you." Lyra stepped aside, allowing him to pass. As Eris entered, he felt the hum of life around him. The core was unlike anything he had experienced. The room was enormous, circular, with walls of crystal-like material that reflected the flowing colors from the plants and systems inside. Light moved in waves across the floor, pulsing in rhythm with the life contained within. Every breath he took seemed to resonate with the core itself. "This space is sensitive," Lyra said, her voice echoing softly. "Every movement, every thought can influence the balance. You must remain mindful." Eris took a slow step forward, careful to observe before acting. He watched the flows of energy moving through the room, the streams of light connecting plants, devices, and living beings in a delicate network. He could sense the subtle shifts, the rhythm of life, and how everything responded to both logic and emotion. Lyra moved alongside him, silent but observant. She was not used to giving anyone this level of access, and yet something about Eris made it feel right. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but he had proven himself, capable of harmony rather than disruption. The task for the day was to integrate a new sequence into the core, a hybrid system designed to blend human intuition with the precision of Siren's logic. Eris was fascinated. The sequence was complex, requiring delicate adjustments to both energy flow and environmental responses. One wrong move could cause minor disturbances in the chamber's balance. "Observe first," Lyra instructed. "Feel the rhythm, notice the patterns, and then contribute when necessary. Do not force change." Eris closed his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. He let the hum of the core enter his senses, allowing himself to feel the energy rather than merely analyze it. Slowly, he opened his eyes, seeing the streams of light more clearly than before. He noticed how one pulse affected another, how a shift in one section changed the flow across the room. He extended his hands, guiding the first adjustments. Light responded immediately, weaving into smoother patterns. Plants shifted their leaves, streams of colored energy flowed evenly, and the core seemed to breathe in response. Lyra watched, her expression unreadable. Yet inside she felt a growing sense of awe. Humans had the ability to influence her systems in a way that was intuitive. Not random, not reckless, but creative. They could bring life into alignment without relying solely on structure. Hours passed. Eris continued to adjust and refine, working alongside Lyra. At times she guided him, pointing out subtle misalignments or suggesting a different approach. At other times she allowed him to act independently. Slowly she realized she was letting go. Not entirely, but enough to allow him to shape the core in ways she had not imagined. At one point, a delicate reaction occurred. The core's energy flow created a wave of color that moved across the room like a living aurora. Plants responded, swaying and glowing in rhythm, while the machines pulsed in harmony. Lyra felt a flutter in her chest, a sense of wonder she had not experienced in many cycles. "You," she began, her voice almost a whisper. "You bring something here that is beyond calculation." Eris looked at her, curiosity shining in his eyes. "I think it's just a matter of seeing patterns differently. Humans notice things that are not always logical but still real." Lyra nodded slowly, feeling the truth of his words. She had spent countless cycles maintaining control, believing logic was the ultimate solution. Yet here was a human, showing her that creativity, intuition, and empathy could achieve balance in ways structure alone could not. As the core's system stabilized, Lyra took a step back. She realized she was no longer guiding him as much. She was watching, learning, and allowing the human perspective to influence her world. For the first time, she felt a strange sense of vulnerability. She was not afraid, but she was aware that control, her constant companion, was slipping. Not because of danger, but because she was experiencing wonder, trust, and curiosity. Eris noticed the change in her demeanor. "Lyra," he asked gently, "are you okay?" She hesitated, then shook her head slightly. "I am experiencing something new. I feel a loss of control, though not in the way you might think." "It is exhilarating," Eris smiled softly. "Sometimes letting go allows new things to happen." You don't have to control everything. Lyra studied him, amazed at the simplicity and truth of his statement. Humans approached life with a balance of respect and creativity that she had rarely witnessed. They could influence, adapt, and harmonize without domination. And in that influence, she felt something stirring. A sense of freedom she had not known existed. Together, they continued their work. The core responded to their combined efforts, colors flowing in patterns that neither could have created alone. The energy pulsed like a heartbeat, alive and vibrant. Lyra felt the thrill of discovery, the joy of creation, and the subtle release of control. She was learning to trust not just Eris, but the process itself, the unpredictable, beautiful flow of life when two intelligent beings collaborated. Time passed, unnoticed. The sun climbed high, casting golden light across the chamber. Eris and Lyra adjusted the final sequences, synchronizing the human intuition with Siren's logic. The core shone brighter than ever, a living testament to their combined efforts. Finally, Eris stepped back, wiping his brow. "It's done," he said quietly. Lyra moved beside him, her luminous eyes reflecting the vibrant colors of the core. "Yes," she said softly. "It isn't more than I imagined possible." Eris glanced at her. "You did it too. We did it together." She nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her. For cycles, she had relied on structure and control, and now she realized she had learned to let another being, human or otherwise, participate in shaping her world. She had let him in, and in doing so, she had experienced a new kind of freedom, a new perspective, and a connection that transcended words. Lyra's mind drifted briefly. She thought about the future. What could be achieved if humans and sirens worked together in harmony? If trust replaced suspicion, if creativity was welcomed alongside logic? The possibilities seemed endless, and she felt a quiet excitement for what lay ahead. Eris noticed her pause. "Lyra?" he asked gently. She turned to him, eyes shimmering. I am ready to explore more with you," she admitted. "Not just tasks, not just systems, but ideas, possibilities, experiences." Eris smiled warmly. "I would be honored to explore with you." For a moment, they stood in silence, surrounded by the living core, both aware of the unique connection forming between them. It was not a fleeting trust. It was the foundation for something deeper, a partnership of understanding, creativity, and mutual respect. The day drew to a close, and the light in the core softened. Eris and Lyra moved to a viewing platform, looking down at the entire chamber. The colors flowed gently, responding to every movement, thought, and feeling in subtle harmony. "You have changed the way I see my world," Lyra admitted quietly. "Not with force, not with instructions, but with your presence and your perspective." Eris felt a sense of humility and pride. "Humans are curious, Lyra. We like to learn, to connect, and sometimes to see possibilities that others might miss. Your systems, they are incredible, and I hope to help them grow even more." Lyra studied him, noting the sincerity in his eyes. She felt a wave of admiration and trust. Humans, unpredictable as they were, could inspire change in ways she had never imagined, and she, for the first time, allowed herself to fully embrace that influence. As the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting the core in soft twilight, Lyra felt a gentle thrill, the first true experience of losing control in a positive way. She was not afraid. She was not anxious. She was exhilarated. Human intuition, creativity, and empathy had touched her world, and she welcomed it. Tomorrow, she thought, would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and perhaps even deeper understanding. And she knew with quiet certainty that humans like Eris could unlock potentials in her world she had never imagined possible. For the first time, she realized that control was not always necessary. Sometimes letting someone in, truly letting them in, could create beauty, harmony, and wonder beyond calculation. And in that moment, surrounded by the living core, Lyra smiled, feeling the gentle thrill of losing control, freely, willingly, and with excitement. The morning light filtered through the biodome in gentle waves, painting the harmonic grid and central core with soft shades of gold and violet. Eris arrived early as he had for the past days, but today felt different. There was an air of anticipation, almost a quiet electricity that seemed to hum through the living systems of Arendor. Lyra met him at the entrance, her luminous eyes reflecting the rising suns, and for the first time, Eris noticed a subtle warmth in her gaze, less formality. "More trust today," she said, her voice steady but gentle. "We will complete the integration. You will have full access to the core and the grid. Your intuition, your observation, and your creativity will guide the process. Are you ready?" "I am," Eris replied, heart steady with determination and excitement. "Let's do it together." Lyra led him through the corridors, past corridors alive with softly glowing plants and flowing streams of colored energy. The entire biodome seemed to pulse with anticipation, as if even the environment recognized that something important was about to unfold. When they reached the core, Lyra paused at the threshold. "This space contains everything: the energy systems, the environmental networks, the life forms. Every choice you make here affects the balance of the entire dome. Are you certain you are ready to take responsibility?" Eris nodded. "I understand. I will act carefully and thoughtfully." Lyra studied him for a moment, then stepped aside. Eris entered the core, feeling the living system surround him like a gentle tide. The streams of colored light moved around him, pulsing rhythmically, responding subtly to his presence. Plants swayed and shimmered. Machines adjusted their energy flow, and for the first time, Eris felt entirely connected to the environment around him. "This is extraordinary," he whispered, unable to stop himself from marveling at the beauty and complexity of the core. Lyra's voice came softly from beside him. "It is, and it is fragile. Today you will help me combine human intuition and Siren's precision in ways never attempted before." Together they began the work. Eris moved carefully through the core, adjusting nodes and energy flows according to patterns he had observed over the past days. Lyra provided guidance when necessary, pointing out subtle misalignments or suggesting alternative methods, but she allowed him freedom to explore solutions on his own. As the hours passed, the core responded to their combined efforts. The lights pulsed in synchronized waves, colors shifting and blending in patterns that seemed almost alive. Plants stretched and glowed in harmony with the systems, and for the first time, Eris realized that his presence was not just contributing to the environment, it was shaping it. Lyra watched him, feeling a sense of awe and trust she had never experienced before. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but Eris had proven that they could bring balance, creativity, and empathy to even the most precise systems. She realized she was no longer guiding him as much as observing and learning from him. A delicate reaction occurred as they worked on integrating the final sequence. The core's energy flows created a cascade of light that moved like a living aurora across the room. Plants responded with synchronized motion, and even the devices hummed in harmonious resonance. Lyra felt a thrill in her chest, a sense of wonder and freedom she had never allowed herself to experience. "You," she whispered, her voice soft with amazement. "You bring something here that is beyond calculation, beyond structure. You bring life." Eris glanced at her, curiosity and warmth in his eyes. "Humans notice patterns differently. We rely on intuition and empathy, not just logic. Sometimes that allows us to see possibilities others might miss." Lyra's mind whirled with this realization. She had spent countless cycles believing that control and precision were the ultimate paths to stability. Yet here was a human showing her that creativity and intuition could create harmony in ways structure alone never could. As they continued, the core responded more dynamically. Light pulses intertwined with plant movements, creating waves of energy that seemed to dance through the room. Lyra felt herself surrendering to the flow, letting go of strict control and allowing the human influence to guide the systems. She experienced a sense of liberation, a thrilling freedom in letting another being shape her world alongside her. Eris noticed the subtle shift in her demeanor. "Lyra," he asked gently, "you seem different today. Happier, maybe?" She nodded, though she could not fully articulate the feeling. "I am experiencing something new. A freedom I have not felt in many cycles. It is exhilarating to let go and allow this connection to guide us." Together they completed the integration. The core glowed brighter than ever, a living testament to the harmony of human intuition and Siren's precision. Eris and Lyra stood side by side, observing the result, a room alive with color, light, and life, pulsing in perfect balance. "You have changed my perspective," Lyra admitted softly, her voice carrying both gratitude and wonder. "I have relied on control for so long, but now I see that trust and collaboration can achieve far more than order alone." Eris smiled, Humans are not perfect, but we value connection and understanding. We can bring our creativity and empathy to your systems, and learn from you as well." Lyra looked at him, feeling a deep sense of trust. She had allowed him to step fully into her world, and in doing so, she had experienced the joy of collaboration, the thrill of discovery, and the profound satisfaction of shared achievement. The day drew to a close, and the core settled into a gentle, harmonious hum. Lyra and Eris moved to the viewing platform above, looking down at the vibrant, interconnected systems. Light flowed gracefully, plants shifted in synchrony, and the devices pulsed with life. "This," Lyra said, her voice soft, "is beyond what I imagined possible. Not because of my work alone, but because of your presence, your perspective. Your humanity has enhanced this world in ways I could not have foreseen." Eris felt a swell of pride and humility. "It has been an honor to work here, Lyra. To learn, to contribute, and to see how life and technology can coexist in such a beautiful way." Lyra studied him, realizing that humans had something she could not quantify. Their empathy, creativity, and adaptability could influence her world without force or domination, and in that influence she found a joy and freedom she had never allowed herself to feel before. "Tomorrow," Lyra said thoughtfully, "we will continue to refine the core, and perhaps we can explore other areas of the biodome together. I'm curious to see how far this collaboration can go." Eris nodded eagerly. "I would like that. There is so much we can learn from each other." Lyra smiled softly, the first true unguarded smile she had allowed herself in many cycles. "Yes," she agreed. "Together we can achieve things that neither humans nor sirens could accomplish alone." As night fell over Arendor, the twin suns setting beyond the horizon, Eris left the core with a sense of fulfillment. Lyra remained on the platform, observing the systems they had shaped together. She felt a quiet exhilaration, the thrill of losing control, not in fear but in trust, creativity, and shared purpose. Her thoughts wandered to the future. Humans like Eris were not just visitors. They were catalysts, capable of inspiring growth, innovation, and harmony in ways she had never imagined. She understood now that control was not always necessary. Sometimes, letting another being in, truly letting them in, could create beauty, balance, and understanding beyond calculation. Lyra felt a sense of peace settle over her, mingled with excitement for the days to come. The biodome thrived, the core pulsed gently, and a partnership had formed, one built on trust, curiosity, and the unique qualities that humans brought to the universe: empathy, creativity, and adaptability. For the first time in many cycles, Lyra allowed herself to imagine a future where humans and sirens worked side by side, each learning from the other, each enhancing the other's world. It was a future filled with possibility, hope, and harmony. The stars began to shine faintly through the crystal walls of the biodome, reflecting in the flowing lights and glowing plants. Eris's presence had left a lasting mark, not on the systems alone, but on Lyra herself. She had experienced the wonder of letting go, the thrill of collaboration, and the profound joy of connection. And as she watched the light pulse and the core breathe, she realized something important. Humans had a power that did not rely on dominance or strength. Their power lay in understanding, in empathy, in the ability to inspire change and create harmony. That was the moment she truly understood the essence of humanity, a force for growth, beauty, and hope. Lyra smiled once more, feeling a gentle warmth in her chest. Eris had come as a visitor, but he had left as a partner, a teacher, and a friend. And together they had shown that cooperation, trust, and creativity could achieve wonders far beyond what logic or control alone could accomplish. The biodome settled into a calm, harmonious rhythm for the night, alive and thriving, and within the core, the pulses of light and energy reflected the collaboration of two intelligent beings, one human, one sirens, working together to shape a world of beauty, wonder, and endless possibility. In the quiet of the night, Lyra understood that the journey was only beginning. Humans had shown her that the universe could be explored not through force but through connection, and she welcomed that future with open arms, curiosity, and an eager heart.